Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Mike Smith, and I'm the superintendent with the St. John Paul II Catholic Schools, and I think I know everybody in the room. But I first want to start by just saying thank you for taking the time to come out tonight. I know it's a busy night. I know that there's even a big hockey game and some things going on, but we really appreciate it. Just to give you a little background of the evening, we call it the State of the School address. And where the idea came from was really 4 years ago. We had talked about the best way to get the word out on what's going on in our schools. And for a long time, we've published our annual report. And this is our annual report. And it's mostly geared towards the finances of the school. And as we published that and we put it online and we mailed it out to everyone, we felt that somehow it wasn't quite the whole story. And so what we thought we would do is we'd start offering a State of the School talk. We'd go over the financial part of the school, but we'd really talk a little bit more about what's going on, what the mission is, and make it a little bit more interactive. So this year we moved from St. Anne and Joachim, where the event's been held, and we moved it here to Trinity. And part of that reason is, of course, this is a great accomplishment. I'll talk a little bit about Trinity School in a few minutes. But the idea of tonight is really, it's supposed to be pretty informal. If you have a question as I'm going, please raise your hand and ask. There will be time for questions at the end. And there are slides, and there's quite a few, so I do go pretty quickly. So if there's something you want to hear more about, raise your hand and ask. A couple of notes before I go any further, however, is in the back of the room, you can see there's 3 people, and they look pretty official. This is being carried. Is it live? Are we live? We're live on shanleytv.com tonight, and it will also be archived. And that was also one of our goals leaving last year was, okay, so we did the presentation, and then we had the presentation online in a PowerPoint, but now this year we're going one step further and having the whole presentation archived. So after you see it tonight and you want to watch it again, you can watch it again tomorrow and the next week and whatnot. So thank you to Shanley TV for coming. And then also we have a special guest, so to speak, Mike Hagstrom, who's seated there. And as most of you, I think, know, Mike is replacing me at the end of the year. And Mike will be, his title will actually become the president of the St. John Paul II Catholic Schools. And that name change will be something that I'll talk a little bit about in the presentation as well. But Mike has been with the network, with the Catholic schools in Fargo for 31 years. And so when I came, the time that I've been here, he's been a mentor to me. And to have him taking my spot is a true blessing for the students, for the network, and for the future of our schools. So we're very honored to have Mike here as well. And the sisters of the presentation, thank you for coming. Our schools are built on your shoulders, and we wouldn't be here today without you. So when you walked in, it made my night, and get a little nervous now with you all staring at me. But thank you for taking the time to come out tonight. So with no further ado, I'll start, and we'll talk. And our agenda is pretty simple: the welcome, and we'll talk about our mission. And then we're going to talk about some portraits of excellence. And that's really where we're starting to give a little bit of flavor to what's going on in our schools rather than just the finances. And then I'm going to update everyone on the strategic plan. So that's really the meat of the program. Okay. So today it's interesting that we selected today as the day for this presentation, because it is St. John Baptist de La Salle, his feast day. And so I would like us to kind of think about that, the patron saint of teachers. And I'm going to start with the prayer from St. John and talk about the fact that the teachers are the people, the sisters were the teachers, and now we have lay teachers in our schools. But without the teachers, our schools would not function. And so I think it's fitting today that this is the feast day. So I'll read this in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. O God, who chose St. John Baptist de La Salle to educate young Christians, raise up, we pray, teachers in your church, ready to devote themselves wholeheartedly to the human and Christian formation of the young. Through our Lord Jesus Christ, your Son, who lives and reigns with you in the unity of the Holy Spirit, one God forever and ever. Amen. And as they say, there are really no coincidences, so that it must not be a coincidence, but it must be something stronger at work. Our mission. I showed this picture at our other State of the Schools address. This is the updated version of it. This is our homecoming court. And you may ask, well, why would you hold up a homecoming court when you're going to talk about your mission? And this picture in itself talks about why mission is so important and why being focused on your mission. One of the questions I asked when I first started was, how does homecoming court fit with this mission? When I think of homecoming courts, I think of fancy dresses, and I think of maybe superficial things about popularity and things like that. So the question is homecoming's great, but why do we have a homecoming court? What does that really have to do with our mission? And we asked the students, the student council students, how does this have anything to do with with our mission? And what they did is they came up with a twist that focused on the mission. And what they said, well, what if we select boys and girls who are representatives of what it truly means to be a deacon? And so the reason that I have this picture up is because we took an ordinary event like homecoming, which all of the area schools do, and we said, let's filter that through our mission. And no longer is it just homecoming, but we have young men and women who the student body feel represent what it truly means to be a deacon, one who serves others. And so you take something, you put our mission to it, and then all of a sudden it makes sense. What's different about the Catholic schools? That's what's different about us. Portraits of excellence, just a few pictures, the highlights of the year. This is a picture of the night of our Generations Dance. The Generations Dance is a celebration each year where boys take their moms and girls take their dads, and they get together, and it's for 9th through 12th graders, and they dance. And it's a very special part of our community. It's one of those things that until I actually went to it as a parent, didn't realize how much fun it was. And it's a great example of how our school takes parents and says, you are the most important teachers, and the children, and we put them together in a situation where a lot of schools, the kids would say, I don't want to go with my parents, but people go with their parents, and you can see that they have a lot of fun at that night. Greg, did you attend the Generations Dance, or is that new?
I never. My sister went with my father, but they weren't doing it yet in the early 90s.
What year did they start, Mike? Do you know? Okay. There you go. A Portrait of Excellence, another, this year we're starting as Grandparents' Day in all of our schools. Grandparents' Day has been something that's been done in some of our schools. This year, the high school and the middle school are also going to have Grandparents' Day on April 29th. That's an important thing to celebrate. Not only are our grandparents, many times our grandparents are the reason kids are able to come to our schools. And so we wanted to make sure that grandparents felt welcomed and come in, but then it also sends that message to our kids that your grandparents are important. And grandparents love to come into schools. And they love to come into elementary schools, but what we've also found is that they do love coming into the high school as well. And so I know the first annual Grandparents' Day at Shanley, the seniors are going to be just as excited as the kindergartners are to welcome their grandparents this year. So that's just a little side story. Just a few pictures that you'll see here. What I tried to represent with some of these is just one of the unique parts of our school as well is that we have 3 elementary schools that filter into 1 middle school, into 1 high school. What we are really trying to capitalize on is that relationship between the older children and the younger children. And so we've done with Deacon Day, we've tried with a lot of other events during the years to try to get the high school kids more involved in the life of the elementary school. An event such as this, where we have the all schools mass, we have all the elementary kids with all the high school kids. The elementary kids are looking, they're seeing how the high school kids pray, how the high school kids interact. They see the high school kids being ushers, readers. We're looking for as many opportunities as we can for the young children to look up to the older ones and say, that's how I want to be when I get to be a senior in high school. And we're also trying to promote that with our parents so that parents of elementary age kids can interact more with high school age kids and say, you know, what was it like when you were in middle school with your child? How did you get your child through those tough middle school years and opportunities like that? Because we believe that with our mission that those are things that we can capitalize a little bit more on. This is a picture. This is from the first day of school here at Trinity this year. And Trinity is a true blessing to the Catholic Diocese of Fargo, but also I think the whole Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo community. To have a brand new state-of-the-art elementary school that's going to be here for 50 to 75 years is really, it's hard for us to comprehend what it's going to be. All the boys and girls that are going to be educated here, all the families that are going to be coming here to celebrate, all the Catholic Schools Week festivals that are going to happen here. This was just the first year. This is the first day, and you can see the boys and girls are just there praying for the first day of school. Kind of a neat photo. So those are just some images to get your mind going, and now I'm going to jump in a little bit into some more factual type things. A quick look at our community in terms of some highlights and challenges. For sure, one of the big highlights was the opening of Trinity School. There were 14 new elementary schools, Catholic elementary schools in the country, and one of them is the building that we're in tonight. And I think of the day that we left the, what was the fun day called? Family Fun Day. I was over with my daughter, who was an 8th grader, and we were here, and we did some of the activities, walked around, and I thought, oh, that was fun, that was nice. And on our way home, she turned to me and she said, what a difference a year makes. And it struck me how much work had been done in that year to get the school open. But then I even reflected a little bit more on that to think about how long it actually took to get the ground, to get the groundwork broken, to get the ground broken and whatnot. This school is the result of years of hard work and a lot of planning that went on well before I was here, and it's going to continue into the future. So that was definitely one of our biggest accomplishments. The Together campaign, some of these other things I'm going to go into a little bit more detail. I'm going to focus your attention down to the challenges. The big challenges right now that we see is, one, teacher salaries. Our teachers are paid considerably less than public school teachers. They're expected to do as much, if not more, with their professional duties. And where they're at right now, it's really something that we need to continue to work on. And I'll talk a little bit about some of the successes with that, and also some of the area that we need to grow on. The public school funding, as public schools continue to be funded more and more, our schools, we rely on us. We don't receive any support. And so the more support that goes to the public schools, the deeper the hole that we get in, and that's something that is definitely a challenge for us. And our enrollment. A lot of our success will come from full enrollment, or I use the term optimal enrollment, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Reasons to celebrate. The biggest thing, we have state championship girls basketball team. We had some wonderful second place finishes. The fall was we were stuck in second place soccer, second place football, second place, what other sport were we? Volleyball. So we were stuck. And then the girls, but that's not really that's not the most important thing about our school. The most important thing is really the day-to-day experience that our children have. The day-to-day, just a normal day where they come in, they pray in the morning, and they go to their class, and that faith is infused, the learning. That's the most important thing that we need to celebrate. Our academic excellence and activities, athletic successes are wonderful. Our participation rate in high school, roughly 90% of our students are in an extracurricular activity. Not because they have to be, but because they want to be. Our reading, writing, and math program, the new programs that we've implemented with our teachers. Our elementary teachers have implemented the big three in the last few years. And that takes a tremendous amount of work both in the classroom, but then outside the classroom for training. And the result is a rigorous curriculum, the Together campaign, and then the service for students. Those are all things that we want to celebrate. So now I'll segue into the strategic plan. Any questions at all so far? All right. So our strategic plan, These are our 6 areas of strategic planning: mission and vision, teaching and learning, governance, finance, communication, relationships, and sustainability. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to run through each of those areas and give you a snapshot of about what's going on in the strategic plan. The strategic plan is, we're in the 5th year of a 7-year plan. So we have a couple more years, but probably starting next year, that's going to start to be reviewed and looked at, and new goals will be set. But they'll most likely be a continuation of the goals that we're already working on. So, our strategic planning initiatives. So we have a strategic plan, and what we wanted to avoid was trying to do everything. So we've distilled it down to really these 6 components. These are the things that we really want to knock out. Enroll 360, and that's an enrollment program I'll talk about. Technology, professional learning communities, the Together campaign, teacher and staff compensation, and accreditation. So if you want to say, what are you working on, Dr. Smith? What are you doing today? That's how I spend my time, and that's how I'm trying to focus our donors. That's how I'm trying to focus our board. That's how I'm trying to focus our teachers on those deliverables. Okay? Because what happens is we have so many things that are coming at us. What are you going to do today? Well, am I just going to, someone calls me, they have a good idea, am I just going to go chase that good idea? No, I want to stick to these things. And this has been very helpful for me, because these were my marching orders when I started. So these weren't things I just said, hey, I think we should maybe start doing these. These are things that were given to me from the board and from a lot of planning that was done. How do we know if we're achieving those? These are our indicators. So our indicators are enrollment, student learning data, the service hours our children are doing, staff retention, our endowments, tuition, salaries, and stakeholder feedback. And I'm going to talk about those things as we go through. Teaching and learning, this is the first area. So our teaching and learning is focused through an accreditation process. We're accredited through an organization called Advanced Ed. And it's important that people understand that we are not accredited by the state of North Dakota. We are accredited by an agency called Advanced Ed, which is the same organization that the state of North Dakota is using. But we could use a different organization. We like that one. They do have Catholic standards now. When we went through the accreditation process, they did not, but now NCEA and Advanced Ed have come together so that the next time we go through it, there will be some Catholic standards that we can go right to. Through the accreditation process, we identified that we needed to work on writing, math, and communication. So those were the areas that the accreditation said that we needed to work on. Each of the buildings had the 3 goals that they identified, and it's data driven. So we're looking at student learning now, and we'll look at some of those things. So our ACT scores from last year, the JPII schools are in purple. The green is the state average. Our composite is 23.6. The state average is 20.6. So our students do very well academically, and part of the mission of our schools is the total person. So academics excellence, very important. But on top of this, we expect that they're involved in activities, we expect that they're doing service, and this is just one piece of the total person. So when people say, well, why should I send my kids to your school? Okay, ACT, yeah, that's great. Our kids do great for that, but that's not enough. That's not enough. It's the service and it's the total person development that we're really looking for. For elementary, we have 2 different slides. The first one is reading, and the colors are the years as they go along. This is the percentile rankings of the students. So if you look at 10th grade, the average percentile ranking is at the 80th, and then this year it's the 80th, the previous year the 80th, 75th, and 80th. So overall, you can see the students have done extremely well with our school. This is the most recent year. This is the 4th year that we're doing MAP. So the first year that we did it, we got the results back, and then we said, okay, what areas do we need to strengthen? And that's how we decided to work on improving our reading and our writing and our math scores by looking at this data. For those of you that don't know a lot about MAP, one of the things that's very interesting about it is that the MAP test, you take it both in the spring or in the fall and in the spring. So not only are we looking at the group percentile, but each individual student also has an individual target that they're shooting for. So if you have a student that scores in the 90th percentile in the fall, we don't let them off easy and say, okay, well, then you're going to necessarily score in the 90th percentile in the spring. We expect them to grow, and we challenge them to grow. And that's not shown on this slide, but that's one of the reasons why we use the MAP test rather than traditional tests that had been used, like the California Achievement Test or some of those types, where you just take it in the spring, and then you're done with it. The MAP, actually, you try to hold kids accountable and try to get them to move up against themselves. So that's a lot of data for one slide. Is there a question before I go on? Okay. Now math is a little bit more interesting. I'll talk about the slide a little bit more. If you can see math 4 years ago in the elementary, it was a relative weakness. So if you would have compared us to a lot of schools, we were okay. But when you compare our math to our reading, we said that our students aren't doing as well as they should be. And so we looked at changing our math curriculum. And that at that point, we changed our materials and we changed our standards. And you can see last year that that increase. And that increase was due to a lot of the hard work that the teachers did, the materials. But the other thing that our teachers have spent a lot of time doing is working together. And on our Wednesday afternoons, when the students leave early, we have time we call it professional learning community time. And that's when our teachers collaborate, and they're able to do things like look at the test scores and say, okay, we're missing this type of a problem. How can we get better at it? And you can see from this data set that we're doing a much better job in math with our students. And it's in reading, we didn't have as much ground that we needed to make up. But in math, you can really see the difference. Go back one second there. If you look at this, is kind of crazy that our 10th graders, 87th percentile for our 10th grade score. That's really high. The bad thing about it is that I don't think it can go anywhere but down next year. I don't think we'd be able to maintain that each year. Just realistically speaking, I would say somewhere between 81 and 86 is more of a realistic. That 87 is just incredible. It's pretty amazing. So when I alluded to professional learning communities, these 4 questions are what a professional learning community looks at. What do we want the students to know? So that's the curriculum. How do we know if they learned it? Those are our assessments. And then what do we do if they don't know it, and what do we do if they've already learned it? That's the teaching part. And so our Wednesday times are focused on those 4 questions. And so in math, we looked at what do we want our students to know. We looked at the MAP test. We said, okay, what do we want them to know? They're not learning everything we want them to know. So how do we know that? It was through that test. And now this is the part where the teachers, the art of teaching, is trying to do those 2 questions there. We're very grateful to our community, to our parents, that on those Wednesdays we have that time. We understand that for parents, it's a hassle. You have your regular week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, so Wednesday. But the important thing for us to consider is that if you have a doctor, or you have a lawyer, or you have any professional that you want them to continually improve on what they're doing, they need time to do it. In schools, a lot of times you could say the analogy is that we're trying to repair the bus as it drives down the road. That Wednesday time is a time for us to kind of put the bus to the side and to work on the repairs. And we're very grateful to the parents, and we understand that, and we hope to continue to be good stewards of that time. Our technology plan was one of our strategic planning initiatives. 2 years in a row, we did special project at the auction, was for technology. We didn't have a lot of our technology needs built into our regular budget, so we had to supplement it with the special project at the auction. One year we raised over 200,000, and then the other year I think we were at about 135 or 150,000. That helped us jumpstart it, and so now we're at a spot where our technology needs we can maintain, but we're not going to really take that next quantum step without another special project. So right now we're leaning towards not this auction, but auction 2017 is maybe going back to technology for special project. And I was at a presentation about a month ago, and one of the higher ups in Google was speaking, and he held out his cell phone, and it was really interesting. The point is very obvious, but I had never thought of it. Chris probably thought of this already, but this is the worst piece of technology that our children will ever use. And all of the things that this does, that's kind of scary. So for us to stay up on technology, we are going to have to continue to invest in it. We've done a good job of incorporating more into our regular budget, but we will probably need to go back to the special project at some point. Governance. The strategic plan really for governance was to get this worked out. And what this is how we exist now. For a while, we struggled a little bit with some things. For the past 3 years, I've been the superintendent and the chairman of the board. It sounds fun to be the all-knowing, all-important dictator, but it's not necessarily the best way to operate. And so we are now at a spot where Mike Hagstrom will become the president. There will be a separate chairman of the board, and that's Father Jasinski. And the rest of the board members that are present, they will be the decision-making body. Our council will continue to exist as it is, as an advisory council, and that structure now is much more easy to follow. 4 years ago, when we started to look at this, there was another branch over here that was the pastors' council. So we had our board of directors, and then we had our pastors' council. The pastors' council no longer exists. We just have one board, which makes things a lot cleaner, and the communication is a lot more transparent. And so it's a boring slide, but it's a really big accomplishment. Any questions with that slide? Get a drink. Okay. Finance. The 30,000-foot view of our finance. Balanced budget. We have about a $10.3 million operating budget. We have a fund balance, which is good. 75% of our $19.2 million capital campaign, the Together campaign, has been raised. And our endowment growth, this is really exciting, and we'll talk more about this. In 2013, we had $4.5 million in our endowment. As of today, we have 7.5. And that is awesome. That is tremendous. And it comes because our graduates and our donors have a lot of confidence in the work that the teachers are doing. They see a lot of really good things going on. And that confidence comes across in the form of investment into our endowment. This is an overall view. This page is in the annual report if you want to study it closer. The big thing that will probably jump out at you right away is our revenue was $15 million and our expenditures were $8.3 million. And the difference is the Together campaign. So that extra money that shows up in revenue is money to pay for our capital campaign, which is Trinity, the addition at Shanley and Sullivan, and then the debt from Shanley and Sullivan when it was originally built. So that 19.2, we're at about 14 million raised, and I'll talk about how we're planning on getting that covered. Yes?
Raised being money in hand or pledged?
Pledged. Yep, pledged. The original build at Shanley, there's 3.5 million left on that. So, well, it was about a 10 to 12 million dollar project. Lori, do you know off the top? Was it 10? No, it's been paid down. It was It was 12 million when it started. 12 to start. Yep. The 3.5 is at a real low interest rate, and that's one of the reasons why the board decided to continue with the addition project rather than paying that all off first. Okay, this is our enrollment, and our finances are driven by our enrollment. Today, which it's April, we're at 1023 for network-wide. We're at 74 kindergartners. Last year we were at 1140, and we were at 104 kindergartners. The bottom numbers, the kindergarten numbers, is of course really important because that's the future. You can see the bump that we got from Trinity last year. So we started, we were at 85, 68, 58, 62. 68, 58, 60, that's pretty worrisome if you think about our long-term sustainability. That's why for so many years the board and the council said we need a new elementary school in West Fargo. It bumped up to 104. Currently we have 74 enrolled for next year as of today. Where we'll end up with either of these numbers, we don't know. We know we're not done with them yet. Depends if you ask who you ask and what, but I would say though these numbers will continue to go up. It's only April at this point. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be formalizing this plan a little bit more, and probably even setting almost a capital campaign type committee for enrollment. And the plan is, it's called Enroll 360, and the idea is to enroll an additional 360 children in the network by the year 2020. And you can see where we're at with each school. I did see a mistake on this one though. At Trinity actually opened the year with 193. And right as of today for next year they're at 200. So these will be the areas, and this will be the ultimate goal for each of the buildings. It's very ambitious, but by not being full or not operating at optimal enrollment, we're leaving a lot of revenue on the table for our buildings and the way they exist. So if we would enroll another 360 students, we would of course have to add some staff, but not that we'd still come out ahead on the revenue side. And all of that extra we would be able to invest into teacher salaries. So that's one of the big reasons why this Enroll 360 is so important. And so over the next year, 2 years, 3 years, hopefully this will become more out in front. The Together campaign will slowly finish out, and then this will become our new campaign. That's kind of the hope for the future.
We had 420 kids at Shambles since like 19
No. And it's very ambitious, Greg. It's very ambitious. And I think we should aim for a full, and whether we get there, that's to be seen. If we bring in kindergarten classes of 105, we'll do it. And that's really a challenge. The part of the Enroll 360 that hopefully will catch on is that all of these people are responsible for enrollment. It's not Lori Hager, the admissions director. Okay, it's not Mike Hagstrom, the president. It's all of us. And it's not that you have to bring in 10 families, bring in one. And that's really the message with the Enroll 360, that all of these people are bringing in 1 or 2 children a year. And if we do that, I believe what we offer in terms of a value, educating the total child, it's well worth the investment. I'm going to go through some of these. Yeah. Yes.
I was just curious, do you do any sort of exit interview for families that choose to have their children in the network and then at some point decide not to? And for reasons other than, of course, moving out of town is a good, okay, yeah, it's fine.
Yes.
Out of our school and into the public schools, we have ways to follow up. That seems to be something that we could look at in terms of how do we even just retain
Yes.
students that we have. That would, retention seems like something.
We do that, wouldn't you say, Lori?
Whether it's high school, middle school, grades, from an admission standpoint, even whether it's email or phone call, what can we learn? What was your experience? And then we actually have a
Yeah, and I would say that the number that leave is pretty typical, and that we're always, no matter, I think that the retention is critical, obviously, but the recruitment of new is far more important than the retention of because I think the retention takes care of itself 95% of the time, but it's the bringing in the new that probably is going to get us over the edge. Yeah. These are some facts that I'll kind of look at. Tuition comparison. Elementary tuition, the cost of education. High school, and then the cost. And one of the things that we started to do probably 5 years ago, I think it was a year before I came, is we started to ask families to participate in something. Originally it was called the Fair Share, and we thought that sounded a little too political and too needy, so we changed it to cost of education. And the cost of education is just asking people that if you can pay more than the tuition, please do that. And we are this year $150,000 has come in by people paying the cost of education. And I'll get to that slide specifically, but the idea is that we want to keep tuition as low as possible so as many people can come as possible, but we know that some families are willing and very able to do more than just the tuition. And so we implemented this cost of education program. And you can see we're pretty in line with a lot of the national averages with the elementary. In the high school, we're a little bit lower cost on both the cost and the tuition. Just some local comparisons. The Park Christian Oak Grove numbers are not updated. I think they're pretty close to what they are. But you can see that I think we're all pretty much in a similar ballpark. And the other item I wanted to stress here is that we don't see ourselves, I don't see us as competitors of Oak Grove and Park Christian. I see us as more collaborators. I've worked pretty closely with Mike Sleddy, and I've gotten to know Kent, I'm forgetting his last name, Hannestead over the last year. Mike's already met with them. We see, and Mike Sleddy and Kent would both agree, that we see our success as their success and their success as our success. We're trying to educate children in a way that's different, and we share a lot of common values, but we're not necessarily competing for children. I think our bread and butter are the Catholic students. We're very open to non-Catholic students, and we want them to come, but we feel that we're different than those other schools, and we think that the stronger Park Christian and Oak Grove are, the stronger Shanley, Sullivan, and our elementary schools will be. Yep.
Does Park Christian Oak Grove do they offer anything academically that the JPII can't or doesn't?
I don't want to talk a lot because I'm not really that informed with it, but I would say that we're a little bigger, and so I would think that they may have some nuanced offerings, but I can't speak intelligently to that. Yes?
The numbers there for tuition, those are tuition, not cost of education numbers, right?
Correct.
So both their tuitions are substantially higher than ours.
Tuition.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the Park Christian number is low. I think that, I don't know if that's up there. I think it's
It's over 8.
It's over 8 now?
This year it's over 8.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is the cost of education program. In 2012, we were at $75,000. This current school year, not the fiscal year that's being presented in the slide. It's a little tricky, but it's $150,000 that we're at for cost of education. So that's a pretty strong testament to the people that are sending their children here, that they feel that they're getting a good value. So our parish investments, that's another big piece of our finances. So we're made up of 8 parishes. Currently 6 of those 8 parishes, a portion of their Sunday offerings come to us to support our mission. 17% of our revenue comes from those parishes. So that relationship between us and the parish, it's not a relationship, it's who we are. And it's not us and them, it's we. So when we talk about it, it's not that we're saying that church, we are the church, and we are part of those parishes. And so that's the mindset, especially at Holy Cross, Blessed Sacrament, and St. Benedict, that's new. And so we need to continually look at ways to build the relationship up so that the parishioners who are new to having a Catholic school in their community understand the value and that it's not a separate endeavor. It's this is our school. So when you belong to Holy Cross and you see a Shanley team or you see a Shanley play, you want to go there because those are your students. That's the mindset that we want to get to. And I know that that's a long ways from where we are today, but we need to project out to where we would be maybe in 5, 10, or 15 years. All 8 parishes celebrating the success of one Catholic school system. And that's a tall order. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's the target. Planned giving. So our endowments have risen to 7.5, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. But the item I want to point to here is that there's a tax credit in North Dakota that a 40% tax credit for up to a $20,000 gift to an endowment. That is a tremendous opportunity for benefactors and for the school, both, to make your gift be stretched. And I'm going to talk more specifically about a couple of those things. Our unrestricted giving, these are more of our annual fund type activities. During the fiscal year that I'm presenting today, it was $112,000 for cost of education, and those are some other numbers. Our goal definitely would be to get to the $1 million mark at some point. Communications and relationships. Just some different things that we do. The highlight of this for me this year is really Shanley TV. The crew that's back here, what they've accomplished by just having some ideas has been phenomenal. One of our state playoff games, there were 43 different states watching the game. There are alums in 43 different areas. And when we talk about building our alumni community up, Shanley TV's probably done more just in this one year with some of the things that they've covered than a lot of different efforts for a lot of years. And it's just beginning. And it's student-led, it's student-driven, and Mrs. McTaggart and her crew should be extremely proud of the work that they've done. And if you haven't had a chance, you can go back to Shanley TV and watch archived games or events or this talk tonight. You can go back and watch it and look and listen to it. It's pretty phenomenal. Just these are some of the other things that we're doing in order to keep people informed and keep people in communication. I'll just let you look at that instead of reading those all to you. Any questions with any of these? Sustainability, this is our last area that we're going to talk about tonight, and that's a picture of Mr. Tim Cruff, who is retiring at the end of this year. Tim has been a teacher at Shanley for 20 years, and certainly one of the reasons that we're sustainable is because of our teachers. And I gave this presentation to the staff yesterday, and I put that up there to kind of give Tim a hard time because I don't think he liked to have his picture on there, but I thought it was a good symbol of sustainability. I'm going to talk, and this is the last 3 things I'm going to talk about tonight. The big 3 opportunities. And this, please go forth tonight and spread the word on these 3 big opportunities because these are huge for our sustainability. One is the $4 million for scholarships. One is a $5 million for Together campaign, and the other is $1 million for teacher pay endowment. Okay, and I'm going to break these each down. The scholarship endowment was, Stacy's here as a representative from the Berry Foundation. John Berry is a graduate of Shanley, and he has been extremely generous to us and very kind to us and a very good friend to the schools. They offered a match, a $1 million match that they would match every dollar, 33% of every dollar for $3 million between last December and the year 2020. We got the word out to our community, and in that year and a little bit more, we've raised 1.6 million. That's phenomenal. We're ahead of schedule. The Berry Foundation owes us a little money. Okay? We've earned more than $500,000 of the match, and I believe we're well on target to complete that well before 2020. One of the ways that that's been closed is because of some planned giving. We've had a number of people that have said, this is a great way to make a planned gift. It goes into the endowment, it's there permanently, and it's going to continue to pay years. And so by the Berry Foundation stepping up and offering that match, and then Joel Shuey in the advancement department working with people to tell the story about what your planned gift can do, that's a pretty tremendous thing. And what that does is it makes our school more affordable to more people. And that is one of the big three. So we still have a ways to go on that, but we're going to accomplish it. The next one is incredible. It's a $5 million match opportunity. We kind of have gotten to a spot in the Together campaign about that $14.6 million. We're like, how are we going to finish it? How are we going to close it? We've had conversations with people, and the math is there to get us to the end, but we're struggling to get there. We want to get there sooner than later. One of our families, Ron and Marlene, offered a $5 million gift matching to finish the Together campaign. They had already made a pretty significant gift to the Together campaign, and so they said, well, we don't want the money just to go to the Together campaign and be done, because there's a lot of other families and there's a lot of other people that could also support it. And so what they said is they'll do a $5 million gift. For every new dollar that goes into the Together campaign, they'll take $1 and put it to an unrestricted purpose to be determined. And so not only will we, with this gift, will we finish out the Together campaign, but we'll have a $5 million jackpot at the end of it. This is incredible, and I don't know, I'm so excited about it, but sometimes I talk to people and they look at me, and this is tremendous. So far to date, we've raised $646,000 of that. That was, I think, was it November, Joel? So November, this became a part of our plan, and since November, we raised $646,000. So a good start, a ways to go. The Shanley addition, we have about $1.8 million in the bank. We're pretty close to getting started on that. The idea with Ron and Marlene is that hopefully this would kickstart some gifts to finish that out. And it's going to happen. It's just kind of a matter of when and how often. The sooner we start, the more we save because of construction costs. And so talk to everyone that you know and spread the good word, right? The Shanley-Sullivan expansion, just so you know, these are the things that are included in it. It's been pretty well publicized, but it's really an expansion for the activities part of the building: band, choir, theater, locker rooms, weight room, indoor concessions for the outdoor stadium, and a lot of those things. So that was all part of the original Shanley plan, but it was not built because there wasn't enough money at that time. So this really would get us the building of Shanley completed, and then we would continue to look at next steps after that. This is the most current one, and this is the first public sharing of this, so I'm really excited about this. We have a $1 million match for the auction this year. So the auction is typically our biggest annual fundraiser. Last year, with the special project at the auction, we raised over $250,000, and that was for the scholarship. That was one of the things, by the Berry Foundation setting out that match, we said, well, let's give it back to our community at the auction and see what we can do. And it worked out really well. And so this year, we have an anonymous gift of $1 million. And what we're going to do with that this year is we are going to use it for special projects for teacher pay endowment. And last year was a 33% match, but this year it's a 400% match. So it's a 4-to-1 match. So every dollar raised at the special project, will be matched 4 times. So the goal of that night would be to raise at least $225,000 to get to the match. And I don't think we're going to have any problem with that. But if we can go beyond that, there's some things that we are looking at possibly being able to do next year for teachers that would be more immediate than the endowment. And the board is going to have some discussions about that with teachers who have their children in our school for tuition, and we're looking at some different possibilities with that. So I think that there's certainty that will eclipse the 225,000, which would give us the 1.25 to put into the teacher pay endowment. So that is exciting. It's by far the most that we'll have raised at an auction, and it's going to be a great night for the community to come together around the teaching staff and say, this is what we think of you, and we believe in you, and this is where we're going to put our money. So that is the last one. I guess the road for closing that gap for teacher pay is really the endowment and enrollment. Endowment and enrollment, that's how we can close the gap. Then if there's any other questions. We can go on a tour. I know the sisters will take you on a tour if you want to go. Anyone else wants to see, but are there any questions that anyone has? Yes?
One of the things you said earlier was that more public school funding areas that they don't get in.
Mhm.
Are you referring to the teacher pay gap or something else?
Mostly the teacher pay gap. Yep. Because the faster that goes up, we don't have the same revenue source. So it just becomes harder for us to catch up. Yes?
Back at the meeting, we talked about the elementary level, the new reading, writing, math program.
Yep.
And having kids in elementary school, we've seen that new math, and it's really good stuff. But also having a 6th grader, we see them doing the same things. Is there any communication between elementary math and that transition to middle school? Are you doing the same things, or are there advanced math opportunities at middle school, or where does the whole...
That's kind of where, right, you hit the nail right in the head where we're at right now, because the middle school now is seeing that the students are coming in more prepared, and now they have to adjust to that those new students come in. If you remember that slide, they were coming in considerably lower than they were, and that was the norm. So that was how that curriculum was set up. But now, definitely, we're looking at how can the middle school respond to those students. Now, the only other part that I would add to that is, in the end, when we look at our 9th graders, even though there was that dip in there, at the end, our students are still above where they need to be. Yeah, but it's that 6th and 7th grade, that transition from the everyday math into a more traditional program, and that's something that we're continuing to work on. And it's a really interesting question, because there's a lot of different ways that you can go with that. You can go into a high school that's more integrated throughout, and our research on it is that it does make sense to become a little bit more traditional in the high school, and so we think that we're on the right footing in the elementary and in the high school. And it's the middle is kind of how to make that transition so the students can be challenged all the way up. And that's a great question. Any other questions? So when you go home, talk about the matches.
How did they choose Wednesday professional?
That was chosen before I came. I'm not sure. I don't know. Do you have any background on that? Why was Wednesday chosen for the professional development day?
I think the public schools typically use the Wednesday as well. It is often free of activities and coaches traveling out of town and things like that, and maybe it's the best day just to for teachers to get together and to avoid missing time, might be. We, at one point, I think we're doing a Friday though, PLC for a year or two. We tried that.
Some people do them in the morning. I don't hear a lot of questioning of it, but the one thing that I told the teacher presentation yesterday is that is that time we need to do better, and not just all of us need to do a better job of explaining what we're doing at that time, and make sure that parents understand why it's so valuable. Because it's easy, you know, just to say, okay, we've got this now and this is what we're at, but I think we need to continually say, this is what we're doing, this is how we're using it, and I think that's an area of improvement for us for sure. Yes?
I'm wondering, especially since the representative of the Berry Foundation is here, I'm wondering if you could share with them that program, nutrition pilot program that's going on here. Just because people from other schools don't know about it.
Sure, and I might not speak the right terminology. Are you good at it, Stacy?
Well, Andrea is much better than I wasn't exactly sure.
Should I try and then see what I can do? So it's a program to educate the youngest children, not the very youngest, but the kindergartners on healthy eating, and it was a grant through the Berry Foundation where it is at Trinity this year for kindergartners. The parents are trained with some certain recipes, and it's to get children to try to eat foods like peppers and maybe, I don't know, cucumbers and things that they may not be exposed to necessarily at home in a way that is fun. So they wear chef hats, and they talk about food as more of, in terms of a health thing, and then the preparation of food as more of an art. And it gets them to try to look at a different way of approaching eating, is how I would describe it. And I think we've had a couple days of it, and from what I gather, it's gone pretty well. It's really, and it's an exciting initiative if you look at our diets and what we eat, and in those habits that are formed so young. The purpose of it is really to get the youngest children to develop a taste for the healthiest foods, and it's an initial effort, and I think it's exciting. And I don't know, hopefully it would expand to all schools at some point, but it's a great start. Did you have anything to add, Stacy?
That's good. I mean, I think it's in maybe like West Fargo schools in Fargo. I think
It's quite a few. It's quite a few, isn't it?
I don't recall exactly which ones all highlighted it, but hopefully it will come up.
Okay, well, I'll be happy to do tours with anyone that would like one, but I really appreciate you coming out tonight, and thank you. Thank you.